right, let's make some shit up. So there he was. The night was long. It was just past the witching hour. A moon, full and voluptuous, raised up into the sky. And he's running. He's running through these dark forests. The trees are flying by on his left and right, and it's all he can do to like juke and bob and weave and to dodge the branches. Everything is shadowed and holding up his path. Everything, it's like he's a linebacker almost, trying to make his way through. And the thing is that he's running because he's being chased. And what he's being chased by, he can't describe yet. He isn't sure what it was, but one thing he does know is that he has no idea what will happen if he stops. Because if he stops, he's pretty sure that's going to be the end. Because he was driving earlier in the day, and this man, his name's Will, I think. That might be his name. And Will was driving his family on just a typical, wonderful road trip. And they're days and days away from where they normally call home. And he's there with his wife, who's a wonderful woman. She has these strawberry locks and just a wonderful mane of hair that you can just, roll your face in and just feel that love. And they have this strong connection. They're high school sweethearts. They've known each other for such a long time. And they have twins. They have twin little girls that are ages 8 and 8 because they're twins. And for whatever reason, this old 70 style station wagon, not the most well maintained station wagon. They're not exactly rich folk. Something went wrong with it, and he had to pull over on the side of the interstate where basically the engine seemed to be smoking and overheating, and so he gets out and he comes around to the side of the station wagon that his wife and children are hanging out, having a good time because dad takes care of things, no big deal. And he remembers popping the hood, and then the best way to describe it is that it's as if the hand of God came down and grabbed him by the shoulders and yanked him just out into the sky. And he went from being on the ground to seeing the station wagon pulling away, getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And he's flailing backwards, flailing wildly. And he emits this yelp of just insane, what do you call it? Fear. Not just because he doesn't know what's happening, but because he sees his family getting smaller in the distance. And he just keeps going up and up and up. And then all of a sudden he starts to get cloud cover. And so these clouds are starting to fill his vision, and he starts to feel a little bit of tightness in his chest, and he's still just going backwards as far and as fast as you possibly can be going without just passing out. And so then he does pass out. He gets kind of cold. And then the next thing he knows, he wakes up and the moon is full, and he's in this forest laying on this floor. And around him on the floor of the forest are these elaborate woven together tree branches. It looks like kind of almost like a woven basket. And there are lots of what seem to be needles and flower petals all around him. And also on the outskirts, there are what look to be small burning candles, but they don't have any holders. They're like flittering flames, almost like will-o'-the-wisps. And he bolts right up, and he looks around, and he hears it. He hears this thing, and it erupts a small but interestingly devious voice. It sounds something like this.
Will you welcome to this earth? Oh, you have been pulled into this reality.
And Will's like, I just don't know way. I can't. And he just jumps up and he just runs. He leaps the small barrier, and he hears this cackling from behind him, and it's like, yeah. And then the chase is on, and he remembers looking back over his shoulders as he's going off into the darkness, and he sees what looks like the small shape of like maybe an impish man, and this thing starts to just become large, and it becomes giant, and the small voice becomes deep and husky, and then it says, "I'm coming, Will," and it starts to take one giant step over the barrier, and now the chase is on. And we catch up to Will, and he's running for his life, dodging these trees, dodging the undergrowth. And he hears these big footsteps from this creature that's slowly just making its way towards him. And he starts to get tired. He's been running for what feels like hours, and he's really heaving, and he's huffing and puffing, short on breath. And he wants to stop, but he can't. And then at some point, after pushing himself too hard, he then passes out again. He actually just passes out. He sees darkness. He can't see anything, and he hears these steps. And as he face plants down into the soft underbrush of the forest, then the last thing he hears is these like steps coming closer. And so this creature, and it looks a bit like it's you can describe it as having a bit of a large, like angular and lanky body, but then it's very hairy, almost like a werewolf. Not quite. It's got the facial features of like a twisted imp with these like small tusks that jut angularly out of its face, and then it's got this like hairy, lanky body, and very long arms. The arms like extend down to past his knees. So strange, like weird, like undulating gait that this thing comes. This thing walks in, and so this creature, with this smile on his face, comes over to Will's body, where he's passed out, and he scoops him up in one hand, throws him over his shoulder, and he starts walking him off and back towards the grove. And so in the grove, again, Will wakes up, and it's almost like deja vu. He's basically seen the same place he was in. And instead of bolting upright, he then tries to have subterfuge. He's like, maybe if I just keep my eyes closed, this will all go away. Maybe it's some kind of dream. I'm not sure. He tells himself. And then the husky figure says, "I know you're awake. Well, let's have a chat." And Will tries to play it off like he can't. And then he sits up slowly because he's beat. He's exhausted all his energy. He's had kind of terror in his mind, and then he looks over at this very shaggy, husky, lanky figure all mixed together, something he's never seen with his eyes before. He doesn't even know what to call this. And he's worried, but he feels like if he doesn't use his intellectual faculties to interact with this creature, that he's not going to ever see his family again. And so, wrestling and getting to grips with his edge of terror, he looks at this thing and he says, "Beep, beep." That's all he can say. He's broken. And then he slowly pulls himself together, and he stops making what sounds like sobs, and the creature says, "That's better, that's better. Now, let's start with what I need from you." And then he says, "What I need from you." And Will says in kind of a sheepish voice, he says, Is my family okay? Like, please tell me my family is okay." And the husky creature says, "Your family's okay. We don't care about family in that way. Hey, Big Blue, thanks for that host. Very kind to you." And so what the figure says is, "The great hand selects our champions, and it pulls them to our grove. And Will, you are our newest champion. But first, you have to know what your quest is." And Will, strangely flustered, doesn't really know what to say. And he says, "Okay, I supposing this is okay. This is insane. This is madness. I have no idea. I'm just a normal guy. I don't know what to do in this situation." And the creature says, "It's okay. You just choose to be the champion, and then you finish and go back to family." And Will thinks to himself, well, it's an impossible situation. What am I going to say? And he says the only thing you would say in this case, he says, well, I'm gonna pull up my pants. I'm gonna go for it. I'm gonna be the champion. I have no idea. What do we need to do? And that is where we're gonna stop that story. Will goes on to be a champion for some mysterious force, and whether he reunites with his family is going to be a tale for another time.